the guys at Sales Club kind of asked me to put together 10 quick wins and practical tips basically on my learnings. And if you go and search this online, if you search top LinkedIn tips for sales and blah blah blah, there's actually quite a lot of content. There's a lot of people posting top 10 tips, top 20 tips. There's actually quite little that goes into much detail. It's all kind of make sure you've completed your profile. And I'll do a little bit on that, but I think there's a bit more depth that we can go into in terms of practical advice. Some of this is quite salesy, so forgive me. The first thing to do, again, is just to come back to the connection thing, and I would like to ask the room, how many of you know how many connections you've got individually? More so, how many of you monitor or know how many your sales teams have got? Do you even know if they use LinkedIn?
Well, I just took over a new group, took the leadership group together, and I had it on the agenda.
Yeah.
And it's kind of depressing.
Right.
Because I found that 60% of the group are using it.
Yeah.
And the rest aren't.
Yeah.
And that was kind of depressing. But then when I dug deeper about how you feel like Twitter and Facebook, I found it was connected to that because they were suspicious of. Facebook seems to have a lot of suspicion for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it seems to then affect people's views as to how you should use LinkedIn. That's just my experience.
No, there was a similar example at Raconteur when I first started putting this sort of a presentation together for us internally. There was a girl who viewed LinkedIn as a sort of business, a Facebook for business, and she thought, well, in the same way that I don't want strangers looking at my holiday snaps of me in bikinis, I don't want business people looking at my profile. But I just sort of had to sit her down and go, why not? You work in sales. Of course you want people looking at you. It's a different mindset. And you have to sort of go over that. There didn't seem an overwhelming response of people sticking their hands up saying, oh, I monitor everything that my teams do on LinkedIn. But let's pick on a few people. So Gordon, how many connections have you got?
462.
That's pretty close. So you've got 461. Did you know I was going to do this?
No.
Okay. So that's not bad. If you get to 500, it hides exactly how many you've got. So I gave you a B+, in the sense that you're not that far away from that magical 500 number. Jessica?
Just like 100.
Yeah, correct. 120. So I gave you a C+, not quite up there with Gordon. Emma? 114. It's a little bit. You guys need to have a little competition for who can grow most. I also gave you a C+, so it didn't want to be me. Ted? A little bit more. 485. Gave you an A-, a bit better than Gordon. You're only 15 away from that magical 500 number. I'm sure after today you'll be there. Freddie?
900,000.
It's true. And I gave Freddie an A++ because he pays my salary. So yeah, no, that was just a bit of fun, I suppose, to actually see whether people know and how much effort they put into building their followers. But I think, particularly if you are the person that is responsible for paying for premium accounts, and you really want your sales teams to perform, why would you not look at this sort of thing? I quite regularly now monitor how fast my team that I work with, their connection things are growing. Because I think, you've seen the value of doing it, you've seen potentially the results, so why not make this an integrated part of your sales training or whatever? It's really important. So I said earlier that when you reach out to people, you want to make sure that when they see your profile or your information online, that they want to engage with you. And your profile is effectively a mini website for you as a business person and for your company. And as a salesperson, it should just very simply, clearly demonstrate who you are and what you sell. And I'm a big believer that content and products are way more important than your job title and your crappy little about me section that everyone has. And certain people go all ego-y, this is who I am, this is what I've done. Who really cares and reads that sort of stuff? If you're trying to sell me something, I want to know what it is very quickly, and I want to know how good it is. And there's a very simple way to do this on LinkedIn. Emma, if you can just hit I hope this will work. Press it in the... Yeah, there you go. So on my profile, I always make sure my status is about what I'm currently up to. So yesterday I posted, the day before, our 16-page report on talent management will be in the Times. So anyone that lands on my profile immediately knows what I'm working on, and their interest can be piqued by some of the content that I've posted. I've written here that I'm speaking at the social event. I don't post too much content, but a blend of raconteur stuff plus projects that I'm working on that people can expand into and read if they want to. Can you pause just there? Sorry. So this bit I think is more, because no, it's not paused. All right, cool. So we are a publishing house, so content is our meat and gravy. But for anyone, I think on LinkedIn, we went a little bit too far, but what I have is all of my projects that I've published in the Times, so all of the reports that I've worked on are listed as very, very simple headlines that people can click into and get a very, very quick idea of what we do as a business and what I've been responsible for. So in this case, it's Business Confidence and Growth Report. You can click on that, you can start, press play again. You can start clicking through to see our products. Now this is obviously personal to raconteur, not everyone can do this, but there's things like SlideShare, you can embed videos. If you have product videos, why not make sure that all of your sales teams immediately on their LinkedIn profiles have very, very clear and very, very good demonstrations of what your products are and why people should be buying them. Because it will differently, there's simply no reason to have an unpopulated LinkedIn profile. In my case, people can just very quickly scan, and this is what I meant about getting in touch with people, and they can assess, do I want to engage with this guy? Do I want to learn more about these products? And then I just have my position and a little bit about the company. But I think, there's simply no excuse for ignoring this. And again, in terms of managing your sales folk on LinkedIn, why not regiment the fact that all of their profiles have to be, laid out in a certain way and have certain information on them, because you're just missing an opportunity if you don't do it. The second little set of videos is that I was sort of casting my mind back, and the number of times that people come to me as their team lead or their mentor or whatever and go, well, I've run out of prospects, I don't know who to approach, there's no one else that I can speak to. And there's never been an example where I actually look at their pipeline and think, oh yeah, do you know what, you have actually spoken to everyone in the world about your particular project, go away, you've done your best. In every case, if I take them through these two examples, they always come away with new leads. Emma, can you just press play on the companies one first? So I thought I'd just give you an example. This isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but how I prospect for new companies. So just go onto LinkedIn, say I'm after SagePay, I know that they're a company that I'm interested in, they've got a company page. I'll then scroll down, and if I'm looking for new company leads, it's very, very simple. There's a little gold dust box here, people also viewed, so companies similar to Sage. And what I do is I open in a new tab all of the companies that I'm not already speaking to. So WorldPay, Optimal Payments, DataCash, First Data here. And then what I do is go onto these new companies, tabs, and do exactly the same thing. And you repeat this until you have about 20 tabs of new company leads at the top. And you'll start to see, so the companies that are similar to WorldPay are different from the ones that are similar to SagePay. And then you can go on, this page didn't load, so this won't work. Do it for First Data, but you'll start to see that some of the company logos repeat. So First Data repeated again there. Global Payments we've already seen, but Fiserv I haven't seen. Elevate I haven't, or maybe I have seen. But just very, very quickly, I get a list of 20, this is taking 30 seconds, 1.5 minutes, get a list of prospect companies that I can write down as a list of companies that I can go to and then start individually prospecting leads within these. And it doesn't matter your industry. As I said, I have sat down with so many people, whether it's a niche area, whether they're looking into cosmetic procedures or investment banking, there's always new companies that you can stumble across by just doing a little bit of non-rocket science company lead gen and things like this. So, as you see there, 20 companies in the space of a minute, and if you really try hard, then you can get a lot more than that. Can you press play on the individuals one? So it's all very well getting a list of companies that you need to speak to, but then how do you find the individuals within each one that you actually need to speak to? So LinkedIn has a very, very quite sophisticated now search function. So in my case, advanced search, I want people whose current job title includes the word marketing. current company, let's say Baker & McKenzie. So they work for Baker & McKenzie, they have job marketing in their job title, and I can use the seniority filter to only filter the senior guys. I'm not interested in marketing execs, I just want to speak to directors and above, because I know that they make all the decisions. I can choose to make this a global search or United Kingdom. And very quickly, it's gone from 120 million members to 3. So Julia here, Director of Business Development. I actually think Laurie's probably the better example because he's global. What I then do is plug in Baker McKenzie into Google, just find their domain name, bakermckenzie.com. Very, very simply, Google the prospect's name, first name space last name at bakermckenzie.com, enter. First Google hit is their phone number, so there, and I did try it, and that is Laurie's phone number. Second page of Google results, I see Laurie's email address, and I can enter this into my CRM system, so no one else at Raconteur ever has to go away and find Laurie's details. I've immediately got his email address, telephone number, company email format, website. I can go and make a connection request. I can do the exact same thing for Julia, and that, this video is a minute long maybe. It's just going from 200 whatever million members on LinkedIn to your exact target within that space of time and getting all of their personal contact details. And I would say that search stuff works about 60% of the time. If you just Google someone's first name space last name at domain name of the company that they work for .com or .co.uk, almost always, and I bet you've all done it, you've posted your email address on an event list or something like that, and Google will find it. And there's no excuse for salespeople that can't prospect like this, in my opinion. It's so easy. It's you probably tell by my tone of voice that this is just automated for me, but it really should be for everyone. So that's just a very quick example of using LinkedIn to prospect both companies and individuals for leads. LinkedIn does do a few things to try and prohibit you doing this. So you've probably all noticed, and again, if you can, click the video. LinkedIn will do things. So as you scroll through your search results when you're prospecting, it will try and hide names from you, and it tends to be, the smaller your network, the more it will do this, and the more of a problem you'll find this, because you can't search within that level, that big a database. But it will start blocking people's second names. But it's just two very, very simple ways, and it frustrates the hell out of me when people come to me and be like, oh, but I couldn't find out his second name. Let's take Richard as an example here. All you have to do is Google Richard J and his job title. Take out the word group, just so as not to confuse it. And the first result, always, 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 is his full name. And if that doesn't work, in the 1% of times that doesn't work, then you just take his previous job title and it'll work. So that's one way you can do it. There's another way that works, in my opinion, a little bit less frequently. But if you click into Richard's private, hidden profile name, all you do is look at the people that looked at Richard, and I've chosen Phil. I like the look of Phil. And then if you look at the people that looked at Phil, quite simply, Richard is there. So it's not rocket science. This is simple stuff. But if salespeople don't know this, and you're not, immediately telling them, look how simple this is. Look, I know LinkedIn does stuff to try and prohibit you using it as a sales tool, but you just Google it. It's not rocket science. But I still think it's, little tricks of the trade like this are useful for people to know from the off when they start working for your company. Another one that I think most people are aware about, but I don't know if they're aware of the detail to which you can do this. Again, I think it's the final video. Once you've got a connection, they're really useful people because they're probably connected to all of the people that you want to know anyway. So if I look at Gavin Haycock, who's a good contact of mine, I've known him for a couple of years. I think most people know that you can click on your connections and see who they're connected to. I don't think most people know that you can then search within those connections. So in Gavin's case, he's got a pretty big network. I can search here all of the people that he's connected to that also work in marketing. Now very quickly, I just abuse Gavin's network to find that he's connected to 636 other marketing folk, likely to be in the same industry as the one that he works in, or maybe his previous job. You can go a step further. So I can abuse this a little further and only say, show me the people that I'm not already connected to, secondary degree connections. I can say I'm only interested in people in the UK. I can take it down and say, again, I'm not interested in the marketing execs and the junior marketing folk that Gavin might have connected to once upon a time. I'm only interested in the directors, the VPs and the CMOs. So you use that using the seniorities filter, and very, very quickly I've narrowed down Gavin's network of 2,000 people to a very, very good shortlist of people that I might want to speak to. You then just have to scroll through this list. So, VP of Product Management at BAML seems like an interesting contact to me that I might want to then go and speak to. Global Marketing Director at Mindshare, in our line of work, he's a gold dust contact. Head of Marketing Communications at Oracle, Capital Group. And then you just link this kind of lead generation with what we did before. So I think there's an example coming up where a lady from Spotify will appear. There she is, Angela. So let's say that I choose that, Angela is someone that I really want to speak to. So all I do is plug it in their email address, their company name, Google her name at spotify.com, and all of a sudden, this is when my video is too slow for how fast I speak. And I know this is a bit painful and repetitive, but salespeople have to be good at this stuff. So again, I've just Googled her details, and on the second post I've got her mobile number and her email address, and I can click into the press release that she's posted it on, or they've posted it on, and I can also see all of the colleagues that she works with and get all their mobile numbers as well. Now if your salespeople are smart, they take all of this and they upload it into your CRM system, so that the next salesperson that wants to get in touch with Spotify doesn't have to go and do all of this lead gen, and it just saves so much time by building up. I kind of feel like standing up here and giving a presentation on how to Google stuff is a bit offensive to you all. But I honestly, I've worked with people that just don't quite get how to do this stuff. And I do think it's valuable, especially your connections are effectively a shortcut to the people that you might want to speak to, because, Gordon's probably connected to a lot of people that I might want to sell to. So after this, I might go and raid his 400, whatever it was, connections. This is an interesting point, and I'm glad I remembered this one, but there's a strange power of being connected to someone, and I want to introduce you to Suresh. Suresh is the Global Head of Marketing and Marketing Strategy at HSBC. He's a pretty senior guy, obviously pretty well dressed. Now, I was just sat in our office one day, and Tobes, one of our colleagues, shouted across to me, "Will, how do you know Suresh?" And I was like, "Suresh who?" And looked him up, and I looked at him and I thought, I haven't got a bloody clue how I know Suresh. I don't think I've ever met him. I'm sure he's just accepted my connection request at some stage over the last 4 years. That's the only information I could tell Tobes about Suresh, but we were connected. So obviously I sent Suresh a message saying, "Hi Suresh, just wanted to introduce you to Tobes Kelly, our head of publishing, who's spearheading the launch of blah blah blah. As you know, over the last 4 years we've published 150 reports in the Times and the Times. However, you guys should have a quick chat." Now I guarantee you when Suresh got this message, he looked at it and he went, "Who the hell is Will Brooks? I don't have a clue who he is. I don't remember meeting him. I don't even remember connecting with the guy." But because he didn't want to be that rude guy that messaged me back and said, "Who the hell are you, Will? Sorry, I don't remember you," he replied saying, "Hi Will, thanks for the note. Happy to catch up with Tobes. Can you request him drop me a line and some meeting times for next week?" And his email address. And next week Tobes went in to pitch 100k plus contract to this guy. And it's just one of those strange things, because we were connected and he didn't want to be that guy that was rude. It helped Tobes set up a meeting. I'm not saying without my help he couldn't have done it, but it fast-tracked it, without a doubt. So yeah, there's a strange, psychological thing going on with people that you're connected in. Maybe it won't work every time, but I thought it was an interesting example. I showed you earlier about how when I post group discussion, topic discussions, it can lead to people getting in touch with you. And I think it's a valuable point, but it's something I'm a little bit divided about, because there's a lot of people on LinkedIn now who just post mindless content after mindless content, and they just fill up your news stream with absolute crap that you don't really want to know. Excuse my language. And I think there's a balance there. You have to post interesting content. Your salespeople should be posting interesting content in groups as status updates, Because ultimately, if people that you're trying to sell to see that within the networks that they're looking at on LinkedIn, they will recognise you as a relevant source of information, and they may either inquire more about what you do, or when you reach out to them, they might be like, oh, I've seen you, commenting on that, and their sales resistance will therefore be lower. So I think there's a definite value, but you can definitely go over the top. If you become annoying, if you can become one of those annoying people that just post, company biased content after company biased content, then it has the opposite effect. So I think you have to be quite careful. I wasn't sure whether to include this. I'm not sure whether Freddie will thank me for having done it, but there's also a point of learning when to behave. And if you're like me, I always have to have the last word. So if any of you were to sort of start a challenging conversation with me, I would struggle not to have that final word. And I think it's a weakness in my approach. And there was one example. Gordon, if I said the word Neil Warren to you, would you know who I was talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
So I published a report called Sales Performance in the Times. So it's a report all about improving sales performance, and it was interesting because I had to sell to salespeople, which is always a challenge. I started posting a few stuff in groups, and I got invited to this group run by this guy Neil. Invited me to start my discussion over in the group that he managed, and I thought, okay, great, another one. Started posting, and he started chipping in with conversations. Then he started linking it back to his own agenda and trying to sell me products. And the next day he was calling me up and leaving me voicemails, and this guy was seriously persistent, and in my opinion, the quality of what he was trying to sell me wasn't really what I was looking for. So I stupidly sent him a message back privately saying something like, Gordon, I really haven't got time to be dealing with this. I've got 80 grand to make in 3 weeks, or something like that. And I deleted all my posts in his group. Now he then posted my private message back into his group with all of this sort of more confrontational stuff, and then I obviously, as I said earlier, replied to it and got a bit embroiled in a discussion, and Freddie quite rightly so wrapped my knuckles for it, because it was stupid. I should have just left it. I shouldn't have had the conversation with him. If I just ignored him, he would have gone away. But this big discussion did develop on this group, and about 3 days later someone rang me from another company and said, Will, I saw your interesting discussion with Neil on LinkedIn. And I thought, oh God, no, not another one, like, please leave me alone. And he was like, I'm totally on your side, tell me more about the sales performance report, and he paid us 13 grand. So it's one of those, you've got to... Probably Neil, just stood outside. You've got to learn when to behave, and you've got to be sensible about it, and never trust, I suppose, because ultimately you're dealing with strangers that you're networking and engaging with, and you never know when someone's going to take a private message and post it in a public forum. You can't trust really anyone. But then there was obviously a benefit to it, so I'm kind of torn as to whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. One thing I think is definitely, someone asked me earlier, the value of LinkedIn Premium. So paying for an account, what does it give you? Is it worth doing? And it costs roughly 300, I think it's £25 a month per sales rep, so £300 a year, to get them a premium account, which means that they can search within that extra degree of connections. It also means they can use things that you saw me using earlier, like the seniority filter function. And in my opinion, that cost versus the slide I showed you earlier, which in just one project demonstrated £33,000 worth of sales, and it's obviously going to be different depending on your business, your sales values, what you do. But I'd be surprised if there's anyone in here, or I'd be surprised if there's many sales teams in the world that sell things on a B2B basis for less than 300 quid. So you've only got to get a few leads or make one sale to absolutely, demonstrate the value of having a premium account. So I would heavily advise it. Freddie pays for it, but yeah, I think it's very low cost versus potentially an absolutely massive return. So might as well do it. Third point, very recent example, is that I think, again, touching back to those points about LinkedIn being quite a personal thing, and it kind of, maybe it crosses over with the last Sales Club event about being challenging and not taking necessarily, no's for an answer unless you're speaking to the right people. But there was an example the other week for the talent report where I'd been told to speak to Jodie in the marketing department, and I tried to email her, left her a few voicemails. She just did not get back to me. So Connexa is such a relevant company to the report that I was publishing. I just sent the VP of Europe, VP EMEA region, this note, which was quite punchy, and just said, I've tried to call you and Jodie a number of times, I haven't heard back from you. I've also tried to email, but it just bounces. Given the scale and quality of the report, it would be odd to get to publication date without at least having discussed this with Connexa, but we're only 2 weeks away now. He messaged back saying, I'm so sorry you've had difficulties getting hold of me. Shall I give you a call tomorrow morning? He called me the next morning, and his battery actually went dead halfway through the call. So he then felt doubly apologetic and ended up paying us quite a lot of money as well. So it's just, your salespeople should be aware, and you have to do it carefully. I mean, there are people out there that would deem this as rude, I'm sure. But you've kind of got to be in it to win it. And I sent this because I genuinely believed that it would be crazy if we went to print with that report without speaking to the leading company in the space. And just getting that message across to a very senior guy who doesn't work in marketing, trickled that conversation back down and led to me getting and Raconteur getting a sale. So yeah, that's the final point is, touched on it earlier, time management. Now for new people, if you've just signed up to LinkedIn, it is going to be kind of difficult to schedule in time. How do you balance your normal day-to-day job, your phone call, your emails, your whatever else you have to do with this? How do you integrate this? And as I said, I spend a third of my day on it, so it's quite a chunk if you really commit to it. And ultimately, you don't want people just sat there on LinkedIn, not on the phone, because as I said, LinkedIn's about starting conversations. It's not about sealing the deal or closing the deal. And it really can, I've seen it. It can be difficult for people to manage their time at the start, and I think as sales leaders, people that manage our teams have to help them with that. So why not schedule a 20-minute slot, calendar invite that everyone gets popped up on every day maybe at 9:30, go away and just start some discussions on LinkedIn groups relevant to the products that you sell. But without regimenting it, I think people will forget and they'll put it off and they won't buy into the value of it immediately. But if you regiment it, I think it will become a habit and people will see the value, and then they'll start doing it naturally, and you don't have to necessarily hold their hand so much. So they were my very quick once-over practical